Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome back to 7th Street, and welcome to part 2 of my VHS DVD collection. I thought for part 2 we would just jump right into a really specialized section, so we'll go ahead and take a look at my Godzilla movies and DVDs and Blu-rays. Alright, we'll start up here with the VHS tapes. Some of these aren't Godzilla, and some of them aren't Toho. I mean, like, for starters here, Yongari Monster from the Deep. I actually got this at a thrift store, gosh, that big one in downtown Portland, on Hawthorne. Anyhow, House of Vintage, there you go. And it was unopened. It was still in its plastic wrap, and it had its $9.99 sticker. It's from Orion, which is pretty funny. I'm always on the lookout for the Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster Orion VHS tape. That's kind of like my holy grail. And like I said in my last video, I don't like to order things offline necessarily. This is pretty cool. Yeah, so, I mean, it fit. It's a kaiju film. It's a Korean film. I actually really liked this movie the first time I saw it, believe it or not. I saw it on a DVD of, like, a budget kaiju pack, and I thought it was pretty cool. It's got some good monster sequences in it. Mystery Science Theater made fun of it in their new season, and I thought it was pretty good. Let's throw that back up there, whatever. This is a copy of Godzilla vs. Biollante. Some people say Biollante. I know they sort of say it in the English dub, but my Obachan, I'm a quarter Japanese. That's how I got into these. Because my Obachan kind of insisted that we get into something Japanese. And her and my dad both always said Biollante. But that's my old beat-up copy. More of a pristine copy. I remember when I got these, when I got this, as a little kid, my mom, I had a copy when I was really young. I always had a bunch of Godzilla VHS tapes, but I had, Godzilla's Revenge, and it accidentally got broke. I think my mom accidentally broke it, which I have a theory that she broke it on purpose. My mom still laments to this day about having to watch Godzilla movies all the time as kids. I mean, you know, I'm sure it's probably annoying to someone who doesn't really like it. I'm sure that my girlfriend isn't at heart nuts about it at all. But, no, I remember then, you know, I was really upset as, like, you know, I was young. I was probably, like, 5 or 6. And I was crying, and she took me to the store and bought me 2. She bought me this one, and I'll show you the other one that she got me. I'll have to remember to bring it back up. But it's funny, everyone's obsessed with that one right now, with Godzilla vs. Biollante, and it's good. It's really good. It's never been one of my favorites, though. Anyway, going on down here. Got this old copy of Mothra. And it's funny, I wish I had it readily available. I don't have it on display, but my Obachan, she gave me this burnt VHS tape when I was a kid from Japan. And it had a Japanese version of Mothra, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and Destroy All Monsters, all on one tape. And I have it somewhere. But it doesn't have a case or anything. It's just like a burnt, you know, VHS tape. Anyhow, you know, I kind of go back and forth with the first Mothra. I mean, it's obviously, you know, one of the better Toho kaiju films, but, you know, it's a little bit tedious. And I guess you could say that with any of the Showa Toho films, but more so with that one. I mean, the Showa series is definitely my favorite, as you can tell. I love this old Paramount release of Godzilla vs. Mothra. I want to get the rest of the Paramount releases that just kind of have this screen grab here. And I usually hate screen grab covers, but this one's so nostalgic for me. This is, you know, how I saw it for the first time. It was on, not this exact tape, but at the local one-day video in Vancouver, Washington. They had all the Paramount releases. One of my favorites, by the way. One of my absolute favorites. Definitely top 5 for sure. And Godzilla's Revenge. I'm going to have to do a video on Godzilla's Revenge because people really don't like this film. I mean, people consider it to be the worst, which is, I mean, it's far from it. I always enjoyed this one as a kid because it's definitely made for kids. But, I mean, I could, spend the rest of this time just ranting about the fact that people hate this film. Because there's nothing to... Sure, it's stock footage. Most of it is stock footage, but, it was made, before home video. Movies weren't, meant to be watched over and over again back then. And it's a kid's movie. I mean, if I had a kid, when I have a kid, I imagine that this would be one that you would show them. It's like, it's from a kid's point of view, and, the fact that it's stock footage actually works into the narrative, in my opinion, because the kid is supposed to be us, right? He's a Godzilla fan, and he's seen all these movies, so he dreams about it, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to do a video about Godzilla's Revenge, because people are way too harsh on it. I did not do that. It was like, I got it. This is a really beat up copy of King Kong versus Godzilla. This is a really cool cover too. It's always, an iconic cover. It's always one that you see. It's pretty ugly. There's nothing I can do about it. Always one of my favorites as a kid, and I think like everybody who grew up in the 90s and the 80s, when you had those Crestwood House books, the Crestwood House books, it said that there were 2 endings to this movie based on the country you lived in, which is not true at all. But there is a lot added to this in the American release, and I've actually never seen the Japanese cut of the film. Universal owns it, and they haven't released a good DVD of it at all. This is one of those fucking covers that's... I think it's fantastic because of how horribly it's drawn. I mean, I feel like I could draw this. It's funny. I'm always on the lookout for the Orion case. Always on the lookout for it. Like I said, it's like the Holy Grail for me. And I was aware of this release. This and the Orion release are the only 2 VHS copies that are floating around out there, to my knowledge, in the United States at least. And they're very expensive online when I check them. This one's super rare. I think on Amazon right now I've seen it go for as high as $85. And it's funny because I was at a Portland VHS swap and somebody had this and they were just unloading from their box, and I saw it right away and I said, "Hey, I will take that. How much do you want for it?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know, like $3." I gave him a $5 bill. I was like, "All right, thanks." Because, I mean, I knew that this one was rare. But, I mean, if I could, I would straight up trade it for the Orion release. Hands down. This is my favorite Godzilla film of all time. I don't, it's just super nostalgic for me. And I'm a big horror movie fan, and there's kind of like this, kind of scary aspect to it, end of the world sort of a thing. Yoshimitsu Banno directed this, and it's pretty well known that he had a lot to do with the movie Catastrophe 1999, which is my favorite non-Godzilla Toho film. Godzilla vs. Gigan, the old release from New World. Like when 1985 came out, I imagine, is when New World probably had, I think they had rights to this, and probably Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla is my gut feeling. I could be wrong, but I think they released all 3 of those when 1985 came out. I used to not like this one as a kid. I don't know why. Just because, you know, it's kind of shoddy. Some of the later 70s ones, the suits just don't look as good. And you can tell. I mean, there's nothing like, you know, an Ishiro Honda one. I mean, you know that he directed that. And, you know. I mean, I have nothing against Jun Fukuda, but I didn't like it as a kid. I like it a lot more now as a teenager. This god-awful... Talk about a shitty cover. I saw this recently. Actually, I bought this at a thrift store in Portland when I went to go see Shin Godzilla. It was kind of meant to be. I was just kicking it around downtown. I was in some thrift stores looking through their VHS tapes, and they had this. So I had this with me at the Hollywood Theater screening for Shin Godzilla. Yeah, God, what a weird... And I think it's even like the tape itself is a little beat up. I'm not even gonna try to do it. Just take my word for it. In my opinion, this is probably one of, if not the worst Godzilla film. And it's definitely probably my least favorite to watch, for sure. I mean, you know, Godzilla's Revenge is miles better than Godzilla vs. Megalon, in my opinion. One of the other ones that I'm not nuts about is versus the Sea Monster. And this was the movie that, when I was a kid... Oh, you know what? I was wrong about Biolant. I got this as a kid, but I didn't get it when my copy of Godzilla's Revenge was broke. I got this and another one that's coming up. I used to really like this one. I always, you know, it's funny when you come back to it, you're like, oh yeah, Mothra's in this one, isn't she? This is a cool tape. I really like the tape. The pictures on the back are pretty funny. Yeah, not one of my favorite ones. And then I just got this recently, just to kind of add with it. And it's a much worse cover. Video Treasures. But I do like some of the Video Treasures releases. This was the other one that my mom got me when I was a kid after she broke one of my tapes. And it's funny, I remember, you know, it's in such good condition because when I was a kid, I put it in the VCR and something wasn't working, and I like reached my hand for some reason. I was really young. I was like 6 probably. And I reached my hand into the VCR, and it like shocked me. I had like this, you know, my finger was like all fucked up. I had to go to the doctor. And then I like didn't watch this for a while. I thought I was like cursed. You know, I was pretty young. Oh. Once again, talking about ugly drawings. I mean, it almost seems like the artist messed up and was just like, oh, fuck it, I don't really have time to start a new one, so I'll just make do. I don't know why certain releases even bother doing a screen grab on the back. Pointless. I didn't even know that Video Treasures released this until I found it at a thrift store. Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. For a long time, this was my favorite of the Godzilla films by far and away. I mean, I used to watch it and rewatch it. It's a really fun one. Bizarre drawing. I mean, you know, I don't dislike it. I'm not in love with it, though. And there are these Simistar, whatever, releases that, I mean, the covers are cool. They were definitely cool when you were a kid, you know. You know, I haven't really made it a point to, like, track any of these down. I mean, I'll get the other ones eventually. Terror of Mechagodzilla, one of my other favorites, by far and away. I got this for Christmas when I was, like, 8. And I was so stoked. Because I would rent it all the time. And then it was for sale, I remember, at Suncoast Video, and I just told my dad, I was like, yo, I needed that for Christmas. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, you know. What else are you gonna say about it? It's fantastic. This is kind of the one I think that probably most people have seen, right? Even people who aren't necessarily fans have probably seen Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Then there's my other copy of my Hollywood favorites copy of Godzilla vs. Megalon. It's just ugly. I kind of keep it, you know, I try to hide it somewhere. Violent, you already saw. You know, these are, to me, are pretty you know, I'm not nuts about these TriStar releases. I hated the dubbing, even as a kid. Did not like them. Battle for Earth. It's so funny. This says Matthew McCarthy on it. Matthew McCarthy is my uncle, but he's adopted. He's like the same age as me. And we were both into Godzilla movies as little kids. And I was always starting my movie collection, I mean, even at a young age. And he would get some of the movies, and I just asked to borrow them, kind of sort of knowing that I wasn't going to give them back. And his mom, like, wrote on some of them, and I remember being like, oh, don't do that. It's like, well, now we'll know that it's yours. It's like, oh, alright. Thanks, Grandma Kim. Rebirth of Mothra. You know, these are pretty cool. I sort of like the, you know, the picture that it makes. I haven't fleshed out the whole picture. I actually saw Megalon, which I think is just the one that I'm missing. Oh, I think there's also Mechagodzilla. But anyhow, I've seen some recently to complete the picture. I just didn't really want to get a third copy of Megalon. I just really didn't. You know, Son of Godzilla's on there. I guess I didn't show that one. That one also says Matthew McCarthy on it. And then my copy of Rodan, which I think is one of, by far, one of the best non-Godzilla Toho films. And I, you know, in my opinion, I don't put Mothra in that category. But I do put Rodan, for sure. And I always like these, I think this is Paramount as well. I always like these later cases, these re-releases. I don't know. Yeah, Godzilla's Revenge is one. I knew I had another one. Alright. Moving on down. Sorry guys, I'm just kind of fixing this shitty light that I have. Alright, down here I have the DVDs. War of the Gargantuas is definitely one of my favorite non-Godzilla Toho films. I love these like official releases, you know? They only did, I think, a certain number that are like, you know, you open it, makes that noise. That noise is like really satisfying for some reason. And they've got the Japanese print, the Japanese version and the American version on them. And they're really, really cool. Got some cool commentaries too. I love listening to the commentaries. And then now you don't see, right? You see, hold on. Oh, that noise is very satisfying. You see these, and then they were popular, and then they just released them in like a normal case. And that's ugly. I love these. These are so cool, these little booklet ones. Mothra. Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. Now we are waiting for me to talk about these again. I have all of them. Mothra, Astro Monster, which is also one of my favorites. I don't have it on VHS, actually. collection is Godzilla's Revenge. I really like this this version of Destroy All Monsters. And on the inside, I wonder if I still have it in there. It's really hard to do this with just one hand. There, you can watch. I keep this. And what this is, it's not a Japanese version. This is from my Obachan. What this actually is a Toho movie called Chushin Gora, which is a true story. You know, it's Japanese, like you know, it's from the Middle Ages. I mean, the Japanese Middle Ages, medieval times, samurai times, whatever, feudal Japan, and it's a true story. Basically, long story short, is you know, this master was kind of forced to unjustly commit suicide, and 47 Ronin, you know, kind of took on an entire kingdom, you know, to avenge the death of their master. And Destroy All Monsters originally was, when it was being drafted, it was called Kaiju Chushin Gora, and that was kind of like the basis at first of the story. And I just decided to keep. I have that. I have a bunch of burnt DVDs straight from Japan that my Obachan gave to me. Son of Godzilla. I don't really like these 50th anniversary releases. I just have these two and kind of called it a day. I'm not really on the lookout for them. Ghidorah. You know what my big problem with this is? I don't know if this is Tokyo Shock. No, it's not. My big problem with this is the American dub for it is not this American dub. It's the stupid TriStar dub from like the 2000s, which is awful. It's garbage. Godzilla 2000. Saw this in the theater. You know, it's okay. It's not great. I'm not nuts about the Millennium series. It's grown on me. When it came out when I was like in 6th grade when the Millennium series started coming out. I was in middle school. And I was really disappointed with most of them, except for this one. And this one definitely makes my top 10 favorite of all time Godzilla films. It's fantastic. They bring Baragon back. I don't even care that he's gone after the first fight. I don't care. It was worth it to see him come back. This whole movie is great. This is one of my favorite suits that they've ever done. I have no idea why, after they made this, they went back to this one. I'm not nuts about the dorsal fins. I think that he kind of looks like a turtle. I don't know. I'm not nuts about it. Final Wars, I was hyped for. I was so stoked to see this movie. And when I saw it at the Hollywood Video that I used to rent movies from at the time. Because, yes, these came out at the tail end of the movie store era. I was so stoked for this, and then I was so disappointed by it. So then, of course, I have these. I actually got these for Christmas. I know it's kind of cheap. I sometimes feel like I'm kind of cheating by having these, but I don't want to purchase them individually. And you know, it was smart. So I was just like, yeah, somebody get it for me for Christmas, you know. It's got all the Millennium ones on there. I mean, my favorite of the Heisei era is definitely King Ghidorah, by far. Shin Godzilla. Man, jury's still out for me. I liked it. I liked it more than most of the movies from the Millennium series. You know, for sure. A little weird, and I was ready for a little weird, you know. I mean, you know, it's nice that it wasn't, you know, a cookie cutter, you know, sequel. I thought that they were going to do something still different, but I still thought that it was going to connect somehow to at least the first one. But it didn't. It's, you know, it's standalone film, really reinventing the mythos. It's cool. I mean, I think I've seen it a total of 4 times now, and it's good. I mean, you know, what were people expecting, you know? This Tokyo collection with the H-Man and Mothra battle in outer space. The H-Man is interesting. I'm not nuts about Battle in Outer Space, although I do like the commentary track on this DVD. Man, Frankenstein Conquers the World. This is one of the best non-Godzilla Tokyo films by far. I love Nick Adams. This is a really cool one. If you haven't seen this film, find yourself a copy. Find a way to see it. It's so super goofy. And it starts in World War II with, like, the Nazis taking the Frankenstein monster's heart, and then it ends up in Hiroshima when the atomic bomb goes off, and then some starving little kid eats it and turns into this. And, you know, since it's Japan in the 1960s, there is a subterranean monster, Baragon. It's one of my favorites. Really, really good movie. I don't know what else to say about it. I love this. I super overpaid for this, and I don't even give a shit. There's this place called Buybacks, pretty close to my house, and they had this, and it was going for $100, and I paid $100 for it. But you know, I had to do it. Matango. It's one of my favorites of all time. I could watch Matango anytime. And then, you know, you have the Mysterians, which is the first time that Mogira is in a film. You know, he's barely in it. If you're getting the movie to see Mogira, he's like, you know, he's gone pretty quickly. Matango is great. If you haven't seen Matango, you've got to. It's a little bit more of like a horror film. It's very, like, pessimistic when it comes to human nature. You know, kind of like a Romero film almost. And then Baron, or, you know, people like to say Varan the Unbelievable. For some reason, this is like the best release that we've gotten, the best DVD release of Godzilla vs. King Kong, and ain't that a damn shame. God, I'm so sorry about this glare, you guys. I'm so sorry about that glare. I'm trying to do something about it. That made it worse. Anyway. Yeah, we'll just go like this. Yeah, there's no features, not even a goddamn trailer on it. It doesn't have the, you know, Universal really needs to step their game up. But, you know, they sold off the rights, or, no, it's still Universal. And, I mean, it's not that great. It's a pretty bad release of it, in my opinion. King Kong escapes. I have a t-shirt of this somewhere, of the original Japanese poster. This one's pretty cool. Evil scientist named Doctor Who builds a giant mechanical Kong to excavate Element X out of the ground. And then the piece of shit breaks, so he's got to steal the real King Kong. And, you know how it goes. King Kong. It was like it when I got it, because I got it at a thrift store. It was like, you know, $2, and I was like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Special edition? Like, how are you not gonna pick this up? I love King Kong, but, I mean, some people are really freaky about it. Iron Kingu. and Ultraman's it's sort of the same thing. And this is the complete series of Ultraman, which is really cool. Iron King is kind of like, I imagine there was a period in Japan in the 70s and 60s when the TV was just littered with kaiju TV shows. Message from Space, kind of Star Wars knockoff. I don't think that it's Toho. I could be wrong. I think it's a co-production, right, with an American company. Oh, maybe it is Toho. Not nuts about it. These are some bootlegs that I have, just because I go to Crypticon, and this guy was selling Aftergon, which is pretty cool. Ghidorah, which is pretty cool. And then Catastrophe 1999, dude. And this is a bootleg that has all 3 versions. It has all the special features. It has the commentaries and the uncut versions. This is my favorite. This is my favorite Toho film. I love this movie. I did a reference this film episode on this, and it's my first episode to hit 1,000 views because it is a genius film. And then, it's not all Godzilla stuff. I kind of have some other sci-fi shit just to, bridge the gap in here. I've also got the new release of Godzilla 1985, or Return of Godzilla, or whatever you want to... I just call it 1985, to be honest. It's a good one. I went through a period as a little kid where I didn't like it because there's no other monster in it. But, as a teenager, I really liked this one. I love, the Cold War stuff, And then on this list, these aren't really special edition of Monster at Go-Go. Fiend Without a Face, probably the best killer brain movie ever made, and Criterion released it, so go figure. It came from outer space. I have it on VHS. That's okay. It's, it's kind of like a Cold War message about peace and not judging people. Plan 9. Just an awesome cover. I mean, some of these, all of these sci-fi ones are ones that I got, when I was 14, War of the Worlds, the original. Conga felt like it belonged, it sort of goes with, the rest of the theme. Jack the Giant Killer. Loved this movie when I was a little kid. It was one of my favorites. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. I mean, it's a spectacle. It's really a fantastic fantasy adventure film. Giant Behemoth. Also felt like it belonged up here, Forbidden Planet. I got this for Christmas one year. I think I was 12. It's pretty cool. It also has a bonus movie that Robbie the Robot is in called The Invisible Boy or something like that. There's 2 of them on there. There's 2 movies in this, both with Robbie the Robot. I actually, sometimes I used to like The Invisible Boy a little bit more. It's kind of like a kid's science fiction movie. And I got this also at a convention. Some guy was saying it's a bootleg. It's only 30 minutes or something like that. It's a little short film that someone in Japan did recently in the 2000s, which is pretty cool. Alright, well, those are my my Godzilla films. So, yeah, like I said, if you want to see more of these, just let me know, and I'll do more videos. I mean, I definitely have many more movies. I've got, some in boxes over here, different. I just don't have any space. I need more shelving. I got all my clamshells and big boxes in there, DVDs over here, more in that closet. This is sort of my video space. So until next time, guys.